from Numancia, Aklan in Western Visayas in the Philippines. I'm having my morning cup of tea, green tea. Green tea is my choice of drink for now, anyway, for now. I haven't actually drank coffee now for over a week. Uh, I can't even remember the last time I stopped drinking coffee for that long, but I guess I'm getting used to drinking green tea. I have to keep an eye on Kal-El as usual. He's down here. If he gets too rambunctious over here, I might have to take him up to the room. But so far, so good. He's kind of just walking around here. I've already done my morning walk this morning. It was warm today. I was like, man, usually when I get out there like at 5:30 in the morning, I usually get some cool air. That cool air is gone, man. It is like hot. This is definitely the peak of summertime here in the Philippines. It's already like 79 degrees Fahrenheit here, but it feels a lot warmer because the humidity here. Kevin Shores, hey Kevin Shores, what's up, Gino? I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Just getting my day started. I already had my morning walk, fed the dogs, walked the dogs a little bit, So just starting out my day, doing my every other day live stream here. Henry, we're doing this morning. Hope in a great morning. Yes, man. Look, you can see. Look at that sun. The sun is already like bright and sunny here. I don't have to like. I have to like duck down here a little bit so I'm not like seeing the glare from the sun. Jim, good morning. Good morning, Jim. Thank you so much for joining the live stream. Good morning. Good morning, Belus. My brother in latest. Salute, salute, brother. Salute. Hey Merle, good morning, Kuya Gino. How are you? I'm doing good. Answering everybody's messages. I actually got a long email, man. I got a long email this morning from a subscriber. He said he's been a subscriber for a couple of years now, and he's got a laundry list. I always get questions like this, and I don't mind. I really don't. I got an email from him. It says here, I am a subscriber, Desel TV channel, and watch your videos regularly from Europe. Because I find your content practical, informative. I particularly like your recent videos on Iloilo, which I plan to visit later this year. And he's got like a list of questions for me, man. He's got like 8 questions like when to visit, which off-peak months, the best to visit, terms of weather, which international airlines fly to Iloilo or Cebu, how to find a book cheap domestic flights, how to find cheap hotels from abroad, how where to change foreign currency to pesos, which cheap SIM card to buy for tourists and from where. Just a no visa needed for European tourists. It's got like a question mark. For European tourists. Need to complete e-travel registration. What to pack. I heard that I'm not allowed to bring medication. Just like a list, So it's gonna take me a while to like answer his email, but that's what I do, man. When I wake up in the morning, I check my messages, I check my WhatsApp, check my email, and then try to get in my 1 hour morning walk, and then come here and do the live stream. That's why I started to do. At one time, I was doing the live streams every day, and that was just too much. So I had to reduce, the live stream. So keeps me busy. YouTube keeps me busy. JP Calibo, good morning, Gino and the posse from in front of McDo. Hey, JP, it looks like he's already either on his way to the bridge or he's done walking to the bridge from his apartment in Calibo to the Calibo Numancia Bridge. It's about 2.5 kilometers one way. So I'm thinking he's probably headed back. So McDonald's is in between during his walk. Joe Cano, good morning, brother Gino. Good morning, brother Joe. Jim, yeah, heat is one thing, but humidity makes it. It really does. It's like I've seen hot weather I've experienced hot weather when I was in the U.S. I lived in Texas. I lived in Louisiana. It's like I lived in Tucson, Arizona. But I always tell people, man, that the heat here in the Philippines hits different. It's a different kind of heat here. When they list like heat indexes here of like over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, 3 digits. Uh, Man, it is just hot here. There's no escape from it. It's like unless you got air conditioning inside your house, because or you're by the beach. If you're by the beach, you got a nice breeze from the beach. When I was in Tucson, Arizona, it was kind of like a dry heat. As long as you were like underneath a shade, you're all right. Here, man, it doesn't matter if you're in a shade. I mean, I can be underneath a coconut tree and I could still be sweating. It's just like for most people, I think that's the experience that they experience here. A lot of people tell me that people that visit, people that's never been to the Philippines, one of the things that they'll tell always tell me is like I can't believe the amount of sweat. I sweat so much in the Philippines, and you do. You do a lot of sweating here. That's why you have to hydrate. You have to like keep drinking water. Me, I love Vita Coco. Coconut water is my choice for rehydration, but you have to constantly drink here. Fortune, good AM, my brother in Bacoor in Cavite. Fam in the Panay Posse, good AM. Kevin, Belus, Merle, JP, Joe. Tough luck today. We lost internet signal yesterday and this morning, still none. Ooh, wow. So instead of work from home and saving, I need to. Oh, man. Sorry to hear that, Fortune. Gas, stove, food expense. Yeah, sorry to hear that, man. But, it is what it is, right? With the internet. Sometimes uh, that's what happens with internet here. That's why even me, like I'm doing this live stream, I have my internet connected to my Blue Yeti power station because I can't count on the electricity or the internet itself. If I lose you guys in the connection, it's more likely my internet connection, not the power outage. Because lately we've been having probably like every other day we've been having power outages, but they don't last long. They last maybe 30 minutes, an hour at the most. We haven't had the long extended power outages yet this summer, which is amazing, really. Usually March, April, May, we get more power outages here. Electricity cuts off because everybody uses their air condition, and the grid system here, uh, especially here in Aklan province, Akelco is the company that provides us electricity here. And I did a little research on Akelco. Basically, the infrastructure is so dated. The equipment they use for electricity here is just so dated. That's why we suffer from electricity outages here. Not too bad this year, though. Not too bad. I would say since January, we have not had like extended power outages this year. I get comments asking too much about crops. Good Lord, bro. Do you want me to plant your farm? Do you want me to? That's the thing, man. Hey, it's part of YouTube, though. It's part of YouTube, dude, Belush, And I get it. I get it. It's like, you know, um, I kind of feel obligated to people because they subscribe to the channel, they watch our videos. So when I make an extra effort to like help out people. But it does get sometimes like this message. I'm like, man, it's gonna take me 30 minutes to figure out all the answers I gotta give this person. JP, save me some pandesal. Enjoy your day, JP. Merle, good morning, Fortune. Brian. Good morning, brother. Hey, Brian. Brian, now in Cebu City. Brian actually connected with Daniel. So they're supposed to get together today. Daniel is also in Cebu City doing his SRV, and Brian had stopped there to get that process going for him. And then he's gonna head to Iloilo City. But I'm glad you guys got connected, man. I'm glad I was able to connect you guys. So should be fun. Should be fun. Daniel's a great guy, man. And you're a great guy, Brian. So perfect that you guys are meeting. I know you're gonna have a good time discussing different things about the Philippines so far. Good morning, Uncle Gino. Hey, that is Matthew right there. Matthew. It's not Edgar. It says Edgar, but it's Matthew. It's Matthew. Brian. Yep. We are meeting up for lunch. Thanks, buddy. All right. Have a good time. Have a good time for lunch, man. I know you guys, you plenty of things to discuss. Since Daniel's been here now, going on 2 months. Going on 2 months. So he's seen a little bit. Since, he's been here to Calibo, and I showed him a little bit of Baclan. So you guys should. Yeah, I know it's you, Matthew. I know it's Matthew. Thank you, Matthew, for joining the live stream. All right, let me get started with the weather. Like I said, 79 degrees Fahrenheit already here in Numancia. Uh, Kalel's sleeping by the first step of our stairs. So perfect. Uh, There's supposed to be a tropical cyclone, but it's outside the Philippine area of responsibility. It says here it's far, 1,600 kilometers east of northeastern Mindanao. So more likely that's not going to hit the Philippine area of responsibility. So the weather here pretty much, it's been the same for like the last month. It says here Metro Manila and the rest of the country, partly cloudy skies with isolated rain showers. The dollar to peso exchange rate, it dipped a whole peso, man. It went from about 61.5, around 61.5. Now it's at 60.53. So went down like a whole peso, but it's still very high exchange here for the Philippines. All right, just get started with the different news events here in the Philippines. Another earthquake, man. It seems like we can't go through a week here in the Philippines without an earthquake. This one happened Wednesday, May the 6th, a magnitude 5.9 earthquake. Now that's a strong earthquake. Anything 5 or above, that's pretty strong earthquake here. Hit the waters east of Caraga in Davao Oriental. 11:35 p.m. on Wednesday. So Wednesday evening it hit. Uh, uh, People that felt it all the way Davao de Oro, Cotabato, Digos, South Cotabato, city of Davao. So those more in the Mindanao, eastern part of Mindanao is where the earthquake 5.9. Pretty. That's a pretty good size earthquake. And of course, it's in the news right now. Mayon volcano, very active. Mayon volcano right now is threat level 3. Category 3 is considered anytime within a week or so, weeks, it can erupt. So Mayon volcano is a threat level 3. If they put it at threat level 4, the next category, then it's imminent that there's going to be a big eruption. And what's interesting is Canlaon volcanoes active, and also Taal volcano. So the three uh, the three most active volcanoes here in the Philippines, they are all active right now. They're all Canlaon is blowing out ash. Taal is blowing out ash, and Mayon is like serious ash coming out of and lava coming out of Mayon volcano. And the thing about volcanoes here in the Philippines, a lot of times people get complacent with the volcanoes here. They don't realize the threat. People just get used to it because, like, for example, for Mount Canlaon, I would say for the past year, it's erupted almost every month. So it's one of those things where, oh, it erupted again. Okay, no big deal. It's erupt. We'll get ash. So people get complacent, but uh, from my experience, that any volcano, especially like an active one, because I experienced Mount Pinatubo back in 1991 when I was stationed at Clark. Uh, they're serious. You can't play around with volcanoes because it could be quiet, it could be little smoke coming of it. Next thing you know, it's a massive eruption on the volcanoes here. And then the long term effect, if you're living, that's maybe something to consider if you're living close to a volcano, if you're thinking of moving here in the Philippines to areas close to Canlaon in Negros Island, even Taal volcano near Tagaytay. The weather in Tagaytay is awesome, but with Taal volcano and then Mayon to me, it would be hard to live around that area in Mayon just because we're Mayon volcano, that Bicol region, Albay province. The problem with that is not just the Mayon volcano. It also gets hit by a lot of typhoons every year. So, you know, when you're trying to decide on the area where to go in the Philippines, that's something you have to consider because if you're living around volcanoes here, it emits that ash, and that ash is not healthy. Uh, it can cause health problems. It could, even Mayon volcano, even now, the ash that's blowing out of Mayon volcano, it even has glass, really small particles of glass, but man, that's something you don't want to be breathing. It's like I've seen pictures online in Mayon. People like are outside and they're just putting like a handkerchief, tying like their t-shirt on their mouth. You can see ash on their head, ash on their shirts. I'm like, man, they don't realize that could be a health concern down the road, man. You can't be breathing that volcanic ash. It's not good stuff. It's not good stuff to breathe. That volcanic ash. Michael Malalastas, hey, good morning, my brother, and everyone, my brother in Northern California. Good morning, Michael. So all volcanoes right now, the main, these are probably the three most active volcanoes in the Philippines: Taal, Canlaon, and Mayon, and they are all active right now. They are all erupting. They are all blowing ash. So that's why we're getting all the earthquakes this past year, but just a lot of activity in the different volcanoes in the Philippines. This one, I wanted to report this. I hear mom. I hear my other dog, Totoy. You're gonna see Totoy come down the stairs here now. I hear Totoy moving around upstairs. Mom opened. Totoy sleeps with. There you go. There you go. There's Totoy. There's Totoy. There's mom. Watch out for Caleb. Yeah. Good morning. Good morning. All right, Toy. Go outside. All right. Totoy's outside. That's the routine. Totoy sleeps in mom and Leanna's room, and then when mom wakes up, she opens the door, and Totoy comes out, and then I have to open the door for Totoy. It's the condition you get inhaling that stuff. Oh, it can't be a good condition. It can't be a good condition, HD. I would not want to be inhaling anything that comes out of a volcano. That's not a good thing. Good reason to choose Panay. I know, right? I mean, we don't have and not that I know, the active volcano here. There might be a dormant volcano here. I don't know, but I've not heard of a volcano here in Panay Island, one so dormant. They can't decide how long since yeah. And then we're not so concerned here about typhoons. We don't get a lot of typhoons here in Panay Island, so it's a good location. It's a good location. The GDP here is good. There's a good blend if you want to go live in a city. There's Iloilo City. I just read another article on Iloilo City. They were like this guy identified like the best cities to live here in the Philippines, for retirees, for a couple that's retirees. Number one, Iloilo City, because Iloilo City is just like so well managed. You don't have that, you know, uh, super traffic, like in Manila or Cebu City. Like you're stuck in traffic for like, sometimes an hour in traffic. You don't get that. You don't get that in Iloilo City. Brian says, "Good morning, Mama." She's in the see, right there. She's I thought you let out Kalel. Kalel's been outside already, Mom. She's Mom's keeping an eye on Totoe. Yes, that's a real word, and you can look that up. Oxford Dictionary. Man, I can't say that word. That's too long for me, man. JP is in the room. All right, JP Calibo. Majas Mountain was a volcano. Oh, okay, I didn't know. I didn't know that Majas Mountain was a volcano, but it's not active. It's like I've not heard of an active volcano here in Panay Island. Yes, Mount Majas, but last guess was 500, 500,000 years up. I think I'll be okay. I'll be okay because the last eruption was 500,000 years ago. Ted from Bohol. Good morning, Gino. No volcanoes here in Bohol too, but we do have some earthquake faults here. I think we do have an earthquake fault too here. I think in Panay Island, I've heard of it. It's more in Antique. In Antique province, there is a fault there, but we don't have a lot of earthquakes. I've been here 15 years, living here now in Panay Island here in Aklan province for 15 years, and I've really only felt maybe three earthquakes during that time that I felt. That I experienced personally, that the ground moved. It's like maybe three times in 15 years. Aloha from Southern Leyte, Derek. Hey, Derek, the Cubs fan. Derek is my baseball buddy. We're always messaging each other almost every day, talking about Dodger baseball and Cubs baseball. Good morning, guys. Good morning, Brian. All right, in the news here, another article here. Um, Japanese nationals robbed in Parañaque in Manila, in Metro Manila, in the latest riding in tandem incident. Becoming happening more and more. I've noticed. Very popular technique here in the cities is where they call it riding in tandem. Usually, there's a driver on a motorbike with a helmet, of course, so you can't identify who the person is, and then a back rider with a full face helmet too. And they do robberies. I've seen even riding in tandem like drive-by shooting in Metro Manila. So that's the thing. It's like another thing to consider when you're like looking for a place to retire here in the Philippines. That's why I never recommend Metro Manila or Cebu City. To me, too many things just happen. Too big a city. For me, if you're retiring, I wouldn't want to be like in a big city with all that noise, with all that congestion, all that crime. Majority, most of your highest crime area here in the Philippines, it's in the big cities here, Metro Manila and Cebu City. And this is popular scheme that's happening because we get a lot of Japanese tourists here in the Philippines. And a lot of Japanese tourists, they like that area in Metro Manila where there's a lot of casinos in the area. Same thing with the Koreans, and unfortunately, they're the ones getting targeted because these riding in tandem groups, I'm sure they know, Japanese, Koreans gambling, they know more likely they have money, more likely they have. Four Japanese nationals were reportedly targeted in the street robbery in Parañaque City on the night of May 2nd, 2026, investigate a growing pattern of attacks involving foreign nationals in Metro Manila. And like I said, it's you almost see it happening. A lot of like Japanese and Koreans and Chinese being targeted, especially near the casino areas. This is casino areas in authorities noted that this was reportedly the third major robbery involving Japanese nationals within an 8-day period in Metro Manila. So it's a concern, it's like three major robberies that targeting Japanese in an 8-day period. That's a concern. That's not like a random crime happening. They are targeting Japanese people. Uh, Since early 2025, more than 20 reported cases involving Japanese victims have allegedly been recorded across Metro Manila. The areas mentioned in the reports, these are the areas, be careful, high risk for this riding in tandem criminals, is the Entertainment City in Parañaque, Makati City, Bonifacio Global City, BGC Taguig, and Pasay City. These locations are known for hotels, casinos, nightlife, and high tourist activity. The Japanese embassy reiterated its safety advisory to Japanese citizens in the Philippines. And that's what happens, Most of your uh, Japanese consulate, Korean consulate, of course, they're going to make announcements, warning their citizens about this area. Stay alert in public areas. That's the advisory. Avoid displaying valuables openly. It's like if you got gold watches, necklaces, gold necklaces, bracelets, you know, you're setting yourself up for a target. Unfortunately, when you're doing that, the more bling, the more bling you got, the more I think the more dangerous it is for you, especially in the big cities here. JP says, hello, HD, Fortune, Brian, Jim, Edgar, Merle, Belus, and Angeli. Hey, man. JP said, hello, Angeli. Angeli's looking for breakfast. Mom is looking for breakfast. If you're right along the coast in northern Panay Island, you have to worry about tsunami there. Tsunamis there. I'm 15 years. I've been here, Ted. I've never heard of a tsunami here in Panay Island. Even Boracay, we've never had a tsunami hit us. I mean, you get like sometimes storm surge, but not a tsunami. Big cities will have crimes. Yes, definitely HD. However, we have issues here in the province too. Mostly civil stuff. Mostly civil stuff. The latest one happened in Baguio, where a guy stabbed his neighbor since the neighbor's dog ate his chicken. Yeah, I don't really report a lot of that stuff, HD, because a lot of times the crimes that I see here, it's a lot of times people drinking together. Next thing you know, one of the person gets drunk and starts like stabbing somebody. That does happen here. So, but to me, it's not worthy enough for me to report just because it's like it's a crime that happens. These random crimes that happen anywhere in the world. This one I reported because it's more targeting a certain group of people. They're targeting Japanese tourists, Japanese tourists. The local, domestic arguments here. I mean, that stuff happens. Anywhere you go to the Philippines, there's going to be stuff like that happening. So I don't try to report those kind of crimes. Kalibo update. Dazzle sent me up with smart SIM card. Yeah, I remember. Which came with a few days of introductory data. I purchased Smart Magic. All right, 299 pesos, 8 gig. Oh, nice, nice. I think that's a week, right? I think that lasts us a week. That 299. They always have specials. They always have specials with your smart data and also your globe data here. Me, a lot of times I just use my Wi-Fi. I guess I'm frugal that way. It's like I try to I know if I go to Calibo, I might hit places where Wi-Fi. I might load my data, maybe 50 pesos. I might load it, but I don't use a lot of data. Yeah, JP does the same thing. I use Wi-Fi at home and still have point 5.3 gigabyte data left after 4 months. I plan on it lasting at least 4 more months. Yeah, I'm the same way. I hardly use data because the only time I really activate my phone on the data is like if Dazzle and I get split up in Calibo, like if she's shopping and she wanted to take, it's like, and then if I'm waiting like at the mall and they don't have Wi-Fi, I might use data if I'm bored. But a lot of times I find places that have Wi-Fi. JP, that's a great price. What you get on the phone plans here? Oh yeah, several phone plans here, Brian. And I got your SIM, man. Your SIM is actually on my other phone. I have this old iPhone. I think it's the iPhone 10. Your SIM is here, so I'll send it to you. I'll send your SIM. Today. I'll make a trip to Calibo today and DHL it to you since you're gonna be headed to Iloilo at your hotel in Iloilo. So I had to double check, because like, where did I put that SIM? And I was like, and I remember I had put it on this phone right here because this phone didn't have a SIM. So I'll have to remove the SIM. I'll have Dazzle remove the SIM from that phone. Good AM, Brian, Edgar, and Matthew from Fortune. Good AM, Michael M and HD. Good AM, Ted from Fortune. Good morning, Fortune, Brian, JP Calibo. Brian, I have to keep my US number and it's costing me about $65 to keep my bank happy. Ooh, wow. That's pretty expensive to keep your bank happy in the US, JP. But you gotta do what you gotta do, right, JP? You gotta do what you gotta do. We got a relief in gas prices. Oh, nice. Good to hear. Good to hear, Fortune. Lawrence, good afternoon from Santa Clarita. It's 80 degrees here. Oh, nice, 80 degrees. And clear skies. I'm enjoying. Oh, thank you. And thank you so much for the super chat. Lawrence, let me put a heart. Let me put a heart in there. Let's see if I can. All right, I did. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the super chat. Brian, yes, me too, JP, but mine is $190 a year. Not too bad, 190. That's not too bad for the whole year. Oh, Kal-El. Kal-El's barking. Let me show you Kal-El. Yesterday, Kal-El went to the vet and he got the deworming. And then we also, his hair kind of grows out his nose, so sometimes it covers his eyes. So they cut it. They cut his face, so now you can see his eyes. Here, look at that. Let me show you. This is our baby. This is our baby Kal-El. Ooh. He's pretty hyper. Like, look at, you can tell he's pretty hyper. Yesterday he weighed 2.4 kilos. Oh, baby. Let me show you. Oh, look. Oh, he wants to go down. He wants to play with Totoy. 2.4 kilos. So he's now 5 pounds. 6 month old. 6 month old. Kal-El is 6 month old now. If you have the smart app, You can load your phone anytime using Gcash. I would set the unlimited 5G data for a certain amount of days if I would use a bunch of data. Thanks, Gino. You are the man. All right. You're welcome. You're welcome, my brother. HD. The phone plans are much cheaper than what I used to have in the US. I was paying $120 a month. Ooh, man. Whereas here, it's a fraction of that. I can show you how to transfer your phone to digital once you are done setting up your bank stuff. That way, you pay that one time to transfer and have the bank happy too. Tello works for keeping a US phone number as low as $8 a month. Their roaming is cheap in the PI. One thing I've heard about those online phones, like Tello, there's several. There's several. One thing that the difficulty is once you're here in the Philippines setting it up. A lot easier if before you leave the United States, you set up those online phone or keep a phone number in the US. Set that up before you leave the United States. It gets harder to set up once you're here in the Philippines. That's what I heard. That's what I heard. I don't have any phone in the United States. Luckily, my credit union allows me to bank with them using my email. And I've been banking with them since I left, since I retired in the military, so they've never messed with the only reason I kept a U.S. bank account is my military pension goes to a U.S. bank. Military pension, they're not allowed to send it to a foreign bank. So that's the only reason I had to keep my credit union in the United States. But if not for that, I really don't have a need for a bank in the United States. I've been here so long, it's like one time I had a phone number. I had a phone number with what was that? Magic Jack. I used to, and then I never used it. I kept it for I think the first year I was here, and I never really used it. With Messenger now, with WhatsApp, I keep track of my family, my friends in the U.S. Using Messenger and WhatsApp, and it's free. It's free. It doesn't cost me any money. Daniel, howdy and good morning to all my posse brothers. Hey, Daniel, good morning, Daniel. HD, I have Gcash and already and put back upload on my smart app. The smart magic data that not expired, does not expire. I get 8 months of phone use. Oh, that's cheap, man. That's like cheap. That's very inexpensive, JP. If you're getting by what you have. Good morning, Daniel, HD. Hi, Fortune, JP. Hello, Daniel. Hello, Daniel. Kal-El and Toto, they're funny. They're like face to face, like looking at each other. Oh, come here. Do you want to go upstairs? I have the same thing on my phone. That non-expiring magic data is so good. It's so good. All right. Good deal. Good deal, man. Magic data. I'll have to ask Dazzle what that's all about because I don't have it. I don't have that on my phone. All right. Okay. Oh, this one. I wanted to report this also. I saw this. Dengue fever looks like it's on the uptick again. Every year, pretty much that I've been here in the Philippines, different areas of the Philippines always get hit with dengue fever, and it's not a fun thing to get. It comes from bites from mosquitoes. So, if you're not familiar with dengue, make sure you got mosquito repellent. Especially if you go out at night areas that have a lot of mosquitoes. I would be definitely be careful. It says here the case of dengue fever in the province of Negros Occidental this year, it has reached 601 cases. We're only in the beginning of May. That's a lot of cases for a dengue fever based on the surveillance. It grew 66% compared to the same period last year. So that's not good. That's a high rate. That's a high rate. In Negros Occidental, they're experiencing dengue fever. La Carlota City is leading with 59, followed by Bago City, 56 cases, San Carlos City, 51 cases, Sagay City, 44, Cadiz City, 44, Cabancalan City, 38. So, definitely a concern, definitely a concern. Dengue fever is one of those things where when you get it, man, you know you get it. And then makes you really sick. A lot of people end up in hospitals when they get dengue fever. And unfortunately, there's actually people that die from dengue fever here in the Philippines every year. Every year here in the Philippines, many people die from dengue fever. So if you're in an area where you think there's a problem with mosquitoes, definitely wear some mosquito repellent. Here we don't have a problem. I rarely see a mosquito here, and our house is we got these screens in our house, so especially inside our house. Now going outside at night, like I know I tell Dazzle all the time, she got to be careful with mosquitoes. When they have tall grass, a lot of times that tall grassy area in the back part of our subdivision here, there's mosquitoes there. There's mosquitoes there, so. JP, 8 months of magic data will cost me around 63 US cents a month. Man, that's awesome. That's awesome, JP. Good AM, Daniel. Was up till 2:30 a.m. working, trying to send an international money transfer to my PH retirement of PRA. Yes, yes. For my SRRB deposit. Wow, yeah, yeah. That's I know some of those international transfers. I don't know how you're doing it, how you're using it, but I know, a lot of times the problem is, when you use companies here in the United States, your money transfer, they transfer it into pesos. I don't know what the requirement is for SRV, whether they're requiring you to deposit in dollars. Ooh, Kal-El made it to the fourth step. Let me bring him down. Because I do not want you to fall. I do not want you to fall, baby. Come here. Come here. SRRB deposit. Daniel, did you make it work? Did you make it work? Daniel, hello, hello. Lo, hey, kumusta? Kumusta, Lowell? My good brother in Oregon. Look at Kal-El. Kal-El is just like hyper, man. He's always like wanting to go down here, want to chew on everything. Kamusta? God bless, my brother. Just got out physical therapy. Oh, no worries. No, you're not late, man. There's no schedule here. No schedule here, man. But glad you're on the live stream, Lowell. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining. Daniel, hi, Brian, GPHD, and Ford. Daniel, I still need to do that as well. Do that as well. Make that deposit for the SRRB. GP, remember to dump the CR bucket or mosquitoes will breed and you could next on the tropical disease list. Yeah. Yeah. Any standing water, you got to be careful. Like most of the time, dengue fever really doesn't start to kick in here rainy season because there's a lot of like even like in your plants like on pots, rainwater will accumulate. Anything that accumulates uh, a breeding ground for mosquito. That's why that 66% rise first part of the year. That's significant because usually this time of the year I don't really hear a lot about dengue. Not until like the rainy season is when I start hearing dengue fever here. HD, hi Daniel. Morning GP, Fortune, Brian, Daniel. God bless you all from Lowell. Lowell, how is the Oregon Trail? Fortune, good AM, Lowell. All right, let me see here. Next on my news. Oh, this one. This news item here, I saw this. A Bureau of Immigration agent, BI. Most of the people that come here, they go. You start out with a tourist visa, so most people here are familiar with the Bureau of Immigration, and it says here on this article, a Bureau of Immigration agent arrested in Cebu for extortion sting. So the agent itself got arrested in Cebu. A Bureau agent has been relieved from duty after being arrested in an alleged extortion operation in Mandaue City, Cebu. The incident was confirmed by the Bureau of Immigration. So this was like an entrapment, because it happens here. Uh, Usually you hear entrapment here like a buy bust. They bust a lot of people dealing with drugs here. Police uh, uh, trying to like catch people selling drugs here. This one I haven't really heard. Like a entrapment operation regarding immigration agent. So I guess there's an issue. There's an issue with this immigration agents. So it says here, 61-year-old BI agent, so pretty old agent, Bureau of Immigration, was apprehended inside a restaurant along Fortuna Street in Mandaue City. Authorities said the operation stemmed from a complaint by a 43-year-old South Korean national. The complainant alleged the BI agent had been demanding protection money from him. So, extorting money from a Korean, this agent was doing. And he got caught. He got caught because he got arrested. It just says here the Bureau of Immigration, it says, reiterated the agent's zero tolerance policy against misconduct and corruption. So it's good to hear actually that at least they are keeping an eye on issues like that, like uh, Bureau of Immigration agents trying to extort money from foreigners here. It's just it caught my eye because I've never heard of any operation like that from a Bureau of Immigration person, an agent of the Bureau of Immigration. And then this one article caught my eye because there's always a thing here about Mindanao separating from the Philippines. I think I first heard of this like even when I was young. When I was growing up in the Philippines, there was talk about Mindanao. The Philippines is composed of Luzon, like a big island, Luzon, Visayas region, and then Mindanao. And Mindanao has always been wanting to separate from the Philippines. Like I said, for since I was a kid, off and on you hear that they're trying to separate from the Philippines. Right here it says Mindanao Independence Resolution to be submitted to the United Nations. I don't know how much power the United Nations really have these days, but they submitted they submitted the resolution for them to gain independence from the Philippines. A resolution seeking international recognition of Mindanao as a federal state is set to be submitted to the United Nations after being ratified by civic leaders and sectoral groups in Cagayan de Oro. The move reflects growing calls for independence in the region. So, but that's always been the case. That's always been the case with Mindanao. They've always wanted to separate from the Philippines. I don't know how. They've not made any headway in all these years that I've been around. It's like I said, I was a kid here in the Philippines, and I would hear this. Supporters cited economic marginalization and political inequity under Manila's governance as key reasons behind the proposal, fueling debate over Mindanao's political future. And that's true. That's true because a lot of times here in the Philippines, uh, Luzon is like where all the money for infrastructure, like you see like the Laguna area, factories in Laguna, New Clark City in Angeles, Metro Manila, of course. You know everything seems to be centered like money wise, building infrastructure, building a subway, building train connecting bridges. All is always centered in Luzon area. That's why Mindanao area here in the Philippines is some of the poorest areas here in the Philippines. You hear about how Davao City is nice, Cagayan de Oro is nice, but majority of the Mindanao area is extremely poor. Some of the poorest people here in the Philippines live in Mindanao. That's why a lot of times that leads to like a unsafe. You got conflict with the Muslims in Mindanao, conflicts with the New People's Army. There's just a lot of stuff. One time Abu Sayyaf was pretty big in Mindanao. The extremists, Muslim terrorists. A lot of stuff, and because a lot of stuff, not a lot of money gets poured into Mindanao. That's why they wanted to like separate from the Philippines for the longest time. But I don't think they've really gotten any headway because yeah, you hear it, but nothing really happens about it. It's like Daniel, PRA wants the funds in US. That's what I figure. That's what I figure, Daniel, that the PRA wants the money in US dollars. That's why it's more difficult to send the money to them. More likely, you would have to do like a bank to bank transfer, more likely because a lot of your money transfer people like Wise, Zoom, they really just they send money in dollars, but when they come to the Philippines, they're in pesos, and still need to call them again at 7 U.S. time to complete it. Yeah, uh, I'm surprised though. That I thought you had hired somebody to help you, Daniel, like an organization. They should have told you that before you came to the Philippines. I know you're hiring an agency, hiring an agency. If you don't get that to work, you can reset the time on your visa by leaving another country or book my plane tickets. Daniel's on a tourist visa, so he doesn't need to leave HD. Maybe you're on a balikbayan privilege to reset your balikbayan privilege. Daniel, I helped Daniel renew his tourist visa here in Calibo, so I know he's good. He's good for at least a few more weeks, and he can renew it now for 60 days. Every 60 days, you just until you finish your SRRV, you can just stay as a tourist here in the Philippines like everyone, most people, like most Americans here or foreigners here, they're on a tourist visa here. You can stay on a tourist visa here for many years. For many years, I know people that Michael Smith, that Philippines life. He's been here. He got moved here to Boracay. What 5 years ago? He's still on a tourist visa here. Good morning, bro. Happy Friday. Hey, Michael. Michael C. For my brother in Trece Martires. Hey, loving the vacation beach boat trips, island hopping trips, Michael. I'm enjoying your lives doing that. Now the Mindanao split is being espoused by the Duterte group. Yeah, it makes sense that because I know that Duterte in Davao, it's like they're kind of like the political family now in Davao. So I can see how they are like promoting that separating from the Philippines. Good AM, Michael C. Have you set up your bank accounts here in the Philippines for the transfers? I think that's the issue, HD, because Daniel doesn't have a bank account yet because he has not gotten his ACR card. Yeah, he does not. You know, it's easier for you, HD, to open a bank account because same thing with Merle. Merle's going to be in Boracay coming here on the 18th. I'm going to pick him up at the airport, take him to Boracay. He has a Filipino birth certificate. So, if you have Filipino, if you're like a birth certificate or anything, you know, you're in a balikbayan privilege. Same thing with Merle. With Daniel, Daniel's a tourist basically here. He doesn't have that. So he has to wait on the ACR card in order to open a bank account in the Philippines. A lot easier for us Philippine Americans because we have birth certificates here in the Philippines. And you can open, I mean, the minute Merle lands in Boracay, minute I pick him up, minute I put him in, you know, go to his Airbnb, our first trip is to the bank to open his bank account because he's got, you know, that he got two documents to open his bank account: Philippine birth certificate, U.S. passport. He can open a bank account with that. Michael C. Good morning, Fortune. Jim. The SRB courtesy version owner. Yes, and that's what they're that's what Daniel is doing. He's doing the Kurt, because he's military. Like me. He's military retired. So it's only 1,500, but it has to be in dollars. That's the issue that he's having is to make the deposit with the Philippine Retirement Authority. All right, all right. Let me just see here. So there's always calls for Mindanao to separate, but nothing ever comes out of it. You know, I've never really even seen like how serious it is for Mindanao to separate. Because I'm sure the Philippines don't want them to separate, kind of like because you know who gave them the authority. You know, it's that kind of political thing. You know, because they belong to the Philippines, and you know it's kind of like probably the same thing happened in Canada. You hear in Canada about some of the provinces in Canada want to separate from Canada, but the national government's not going to allow that because of the resources that's in that area. You know, it's still a whole country. Still a whole country. Do they take cash? That I would not know if they take cash. If the PRC takes cash. I'm using JRC and they are great. Made everything so easy for me so far on my SRRB courtesy. Good to hear. Good to hear, Brian. That's what I thought. That's to me. If I was using an agency, they need to make my life easy, right? Because I'm paying them. You're paying the agency. You know, it's like, what is this agency doing? If they're making it hard, they should have told you. You should have. Should have told you everything that you needed to do before you left the United States, right? You know, so maybe miscommunication, or maybe it's the wrong agency. Maybe it's the wrong agency, making it hard for Daniel to take care of things for his SRB. Because most people that I talk to with the SRBs, easy process. You know, it's an easy process. It's not like it's not especially for military retirees, because the deposit is like low, like $1,500. You know, that's like, you know, that's nothing. That's nothing. You know, compared to like if you're not military, if not military retired, you're the deposit's like $20,000. Now that's an issue. If I had to like transfer $20,000, you know, it might be harder to do, but 1,500, come on, 1,500. That's so little. The amount so little. This other article that I saw, pretty interesting. When I saw this article, it says here, foreign tourist arrivals up 9% despite industry headwinds, say tourism chief. So even with all the stuff that's happening, even with all the stuff that's happening with the oil prices, with airlines and all that, uh, arrivals is up 9% from last year compared to last year, beginning of last year to today, and this year 9% foreign tourists coming to the Philippines. So not affecting tourism. Like I said, even the oil crisis here, I haven't really seen a big effect. Boracay's been busier than most years. You would think there would be a drop in people going to Boracay. I have not seen the drop, man. It's like May 1st, actually, May 1st for Labor Day. They had 13,000 visitors to Boracay on one day. One day, 13,000 people went to Boracay on May 1st. That's like because of Love Boracay and Labor Day here. So I have not seen a decrease of tourism or, like I said, the only effect that the oil crisis really have done for me anyway is like the price of gas. But ev- everything's like business as usual here. Not, maybe down the road, we're going to feel, like inflation or whatever they talk about, things getting more expensive here. But I just have not seen it. If anything, I've seen people reduce spending money. You see, I hear more people not taking vacations this year, like us. We haven't really. The only vacation we've really taken in a few days that Dazzle and I went for our anniversary in Iloilo City, and now I'll go to Boracay when I pick up Merle to take him to Boracay. But we haven't really done vacation this year. More likely before Leanna goes back to school June 8th, we'll try to take her to Boracay for a couple of days so she can at least have a Boracay beach pictures this summer. JR is an expert and honest. He has been on Mike Smith TPL bids for many years now. Yes, that's what I'm saying. I've never really, all I've heard about that process is an easy process. So I don't know, Daniel's having difficulty with the agency that he's dealing with. He has even expanded to property agency, helping expats find place to live in. Yes, JR is a great guy. I wonder, yeah, Bill Bryan's going to see Daniel later on. They're going to eat lunch together. So maybe we'll find out which agency is Daniel using. Howdy, Gino, watching. Ooh, wow, from Las Vegas, man. You're in Las Vegas. All right. Usually, I know you're from Texas, man, but like Las Vegas. All right. Live from Las Vegas. Viva Las Vegas. All right, man. All right. Oh, this article, I wanted to like. I saw this. I found this kind of interesting. How it says here, Philippines. The Philippines ranks among the highest in tax rates in Southeast Asia. Where do your taxes go? It's like the Philippines get compared to other countries like the VAT. The VAT is VAT is pretty much on everything. When you buy your gasoline at the gas station, there's a VAT. There's a VAT. When your electricity, even my electricity I pay in the house here, got a VAT. It's a tax. It's a tax by the national government here. In the Philippines, the VAT for the Philippines is 12%. 12%. Uh, Man, even I wonder how much California even. I don't think California is California 12%. You guys in California, let me know. It's like, 12% is pretty high for like the national government hitting you up with taxes. And just comparing it to other countries, Philippines at 12%, Indonesia 11, Cambodia 10, Vietnam 8, Laos and Thailand 7 regarding the VAT, regarding that tax on everything. Tax on everything. Now, the income tax, this is another thing. Income tax in the Philippines. I guess there's four countries that the income tax, if you're a worker, you get taxed. Philippines, Thailand, Vietnam, Indonesia, all 35% tax for income. Man, I didn't realize they paid that much. That's a lot of income tax, man. And that's what the Filipinos are like thinking. It's like they're paying all these taxes, and where do the taxes go? what is happening with all the the taxes? Where is it going? Uh, I know where it's going. I know where it's going. It's like, unfortunately, we also have the highest corruption level here. So a lot of the tax money, unfortunately, are getting stolen here. All right. Raymond, hey Raymond, hello, hello. I gotta like, where's Cal? Oh, Cal sleeping now, sleeping. Hello, brother Gino and Dazzle, Leanne and Mom, all my fellows. God bless, God bless. Thank you, Ray. Thank you, Ray. You all keep you all safe and healthy. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ray. This article here I saw during Balikatan. It's about to end now. I think Balikatan, all the military exercises happening all over the Philippines. Balikatan, shoulder to shoulder exercise between American and Filipino forces, and this year it even expanded. Over 17,000 troops participated in Balikatan. uh, Troops from Canada, Japan, for the first time in Balikatan. 1,000 soldiers from Japan participated. Australia participated. There's a lot more countries involved with Balikatan. And this year, uh, the U.S. Army debut, I guess a debut. The debut of this weapon is a unmanned service vessel. Basically, it's like it's a drone. Instead of a drone in the air, it's in the water. They It says here, from the sandy shores of La Paz sand dunes this week, during Balikatan, the Army Unmanned Surface Vessel, USB is called. I've actually never heard of it. I've actually, when I saw this article, it caught my eye because like I know about drones, but I never thought, it makes sense, putting like almost like a remote control ship, like a little tiny ship in the ocean with weapons on it. Kind of cool, actually. Us military guys, we like weaponry. We like all the cool weaponry. We like all the neat gadgets that they're coming up with. Usually Balikatan, a lot of amphibious assault. So this is like another added during this Balikatan exercise. A lot of like usually like beach landing. They practice that beach landing. A lot of the missile here in the Philippines, they'll test the missile. But I've never heard. This is the first time. The first time they've done this unmanned service vessel, and they launch it from the beach. They launch it from the beach. Pretty cool stuff, man. Just more and more weaponry debuting here in the Philippines, in Lawag City, up there in northern Luzon, northern Luzon. Let me delete that. That way I don't tell you that story again. Michael C. That's our Tagaytay expat group. Oh, okay, all right. You got a nice. Good to hear. Good to hear. We hang out. We always meet up and do things together. It's about 30. Oh, great, man. Oh, you guys got. I know that, man. You guys got a lot more expats living in the Tagaytay area. Beautiful area. The weather in the Tagaytay area. That's what cooler temperatures. Any info on any new joint bases? Any info on any new joint bases? Um, Really, it's not joint bases. The thing you got to be careful when you say joint bases here, because in the United States, when you say joint bases, it's joint base where the army, like in Hawaii, you got in the Air Force Base, Navy joint base. here in the Philippines, it's not a joint base. It's a Philippine base that Americans are allowed to use. Americans are allowed to store equipment. Filipinos are really particular about that because of the sovereignty, because of the sovereignty thing. You know, it's like there's some Filipinos that don't want to hear that there's American bases here in the Philippines. That's why I'm always careful when I mention that. Also, I'm always careful. It's 9 military bases here in the Philippines that are Philippine bases. Not American. There will never be an American base here in the Philippines again. Not like back in the 80s. You know, I was stationed at Clark Air Base, Subic Naval. Derek was stationed at Subic Naval. There's never going to be an American base here again in the Philippines. So, but there's 9 that are announced, 9 places where U.S. forces get to deploy. But there's other places here in the Philippines that U.S. forces are always placed, like for even not without bases in it. You know, it's like Mindanao area. There's always U.S. military operations in Mindanao because of the, you know, Abu Sayyaf back in the day, because the Islam. Extreme Islam terrorist groups that train. Yeah, they actually train in Mindanao. So there's always special forces, a lot of that secret squirrel stuff going on in Mindanao with American forces, but no military, U.S. military bases in the Philippines. Thank you, Kuya Gino. You're always welcome to stay at my Airbnb. I already packed my stuff. I feel great retiring young like you. Yeah, I mean, it's like it's a blessing. It's a blessing, brother. You got, you know, uh, retiring now, even for many Americans, Merle, is no longer guaranteed. You know, it's like not everybody gets to retire anymore. Even Americans living in the United States on Social Security. You know, uh, a lot of people on Social Security in the United States, they have to have a part-time job or some type of income to supplement their Social Security. And then, you know, if you're there, if you're getting like the average Social Security is about $1,700, you know, um, that doesn't go very far in the United States anymore. So there's many people that struggle. So man, yeah, you're getting to retire younger than 62, the early retirement age in the U.S. Man, that's a blessing. You got to be grateful. You know, it's like me. That's how I'm always grateful for my life here because I got to retire early, got to experience life. Didn't have to wait till 62 to stop working. I understand that. Good to know. All right, Jim. Good to. Yeah, I'm always careful with that, Jim, because you know there's many people here in the Philippines that you know there's always like the protest Americans. They don't want Americans to have any input in the government here in the Philippines. Kind of understandable, you know. I remember back in the 80s when I was stationed at Clark, that process where they pushed out the military bases here. They did not renew the lease. The lease was expiring. So the bases here had to close in 1992 after Pinatubo. They could have extended it. They could have extended the lease. And Clark, Subic Naval Base, San Miguel, Wallace Air Station, all the bases here in the Philippines could have stayed. But the national government here, the Senate, really the Senate, it was a tie in the Senate. Uh, the 24 senators actually voted 12-12. It was a tie. And the deciding vote was the vice president. And the vice president at the time said no to the military bases here in the Philippines. Huge implications, right? Because the American bases left. But ever since then, there's a real, even in the Constitution of the Philippines, it's mentioned in the Constitution of the Philippines that they don't want another country to be over here having military bases here. You have to get approval from from the Congress here in the Philippines. But I won't see it. I know I would never. As a matter of fact, you know, come 2028, we never really know what's going to happen with the U.S. and Philippine connection or the bond that they built for these years, because in 2028 a new election is going to happen in 2028. You never know in 2028 here in the Philippines if the Philippines will pivot again to China. Yes, sir. Have a great day. Friday. All right, Belus. Thank you, Belus. I feel very blessed to be able to retire at 55. Right? Man, that is a blessing, man. If at 55 you're able to retire, man, that's such a blessing. Such a blessing, Brian, because you get to experience life. It's like you don't have to wait, like the early retirement age in the US is 62. And, by 62, you know, you might not have all your functions by 62, for a lot of people, unfortunately. I was at an expat lunch yesterday, and almost everyone there was six. Yeah, yeah. You're a young one. You're a young one, man. Brian, you will experience that with expat get-togethers here, Brian. Like if you go to the Canadian Beaver, if you go to the Canadian Beaver in Roa City, you're gonna experience that. Like you're at 55, you're a young one. You're a young one. More people 65 and older, 70s, even 80s, even retirees, expat retirees here. You're gonna see that. All right. I found this one article talking about overseas Filipino workers. Overseas Filipino workers. Like the estimate regarding the overseas Filipino workers, 10.7 million. 10.7 million OFWs live abroad instead of working here in the Philippines. And a big piece of the Philippine economy is those 10.7 million OFWs that work abroad. Brings in minimum $38 billion in remittance here in the Philippines, and they're constant remittance. I see it with my neighbors here. My neighbors here at Camellia Aklan, they got nice houses here, nice vehicles. And my neighbor next door here has got like a Ranger, Ford Ranger truck, souped up Ford Ranger, because the usually it's the husband, some of the wives. There's also not just the husband, but one of the family member works abroad. Like I said, 10.7 million OFWs. It says here, Filipinos who choose to go where returns were highest. The largest collective act of personal financial strategy in modern history. I don't think there's any country that does that. It's like the Philippines. We export people. We export people all over the world. 10.7 million. I don't think there's a country that can say that they send that many people outside their country to work. And the strategy is, while you're young, you're working abroad, send money to the Philippines. And a lot of people, they're building homes here with the money. They're vehicles, businesses. They're preparing themselves. Because you can't work forever overseas. A lot of times, age has to do a lot of that. A lot of your merchant marines. A lot of those that work in the container ships, cruise ships. A lot of times they age pretty fast. Because I guess it's hard work, and it's hard on the body. It's hard on the body working in those container ships or oil tankers and all that. It's like a lot of times, and they have to pass the OFWs that have to go every year. Because I have one neighbor here that I know really well. He has to pass a physical because uh, they don't want to send like somebody that's gonna get sick out in the ocean and then have to like send them back. It might reroute the boat, the big tanker or big container ship, or they might to aerovac him. So they're pretty strict physical. So a lot of times, a lot of Filipinos, unfortunately, they don't have the best diet, they don't have the best exercise working in those ships. By the time they reach their early 40s, they can't pass the physical anymore to work in those ships. So you see a lot of younger people in their 20s and 30s working in those container ships and those oil tankers. So, and they know that a lot of overseas Filipino workers know that man, you got a small window to work overseas and make that money, and then hopefully you can build something here in the Philippines. It says here, it is the largest collective act of personal financial strategy any nation's citizenry has ever executed in the modern history. Like I've never heard of any other country in the world that does what Filipinos do. You know, Filipinos will work as domestic helpers, work on container ships, work in engineering, construction, nursing. You know, we just like export a ton of people abroad, and the strategy is like work abroad, send all your money to the Philippines, hopefully build something here because a lot of times the job overseas, you know, they're like contracted work, so they don't last. You know, the contracts might expire, might have a hard time getting another contract, so they're making the most out of it. You know, but you do have people that, you know, they're like overseas Filipino workers working in the Middle East, you know, working in like areas like that where they're there like 10, 20, 30 years, maybe come home every 2 or 3 years. Big sacrifice. That's why here in the Philippines, the OFWs, they are considered heroes here. You know, they're supporting like, you know, if you can imagine one, you know, the father of the family working in the Middle East, sending the money here. They're like, you know, supporting the mother of that family, the kids, the parents, you know, relatives. You know, it's like employing a lot more people here. Jim, I never expected to see Social Security. I am waiting to get bonus percentage. My military is sufficient until then. Yeah, for me, you know, it's gonna be nice. You know, it's like I'm 2 years away from my Social Security. It's gonna be nice. You know, I've relied on my military pension here in the Philippines. Gonna be nice to get something from Social Security. But and then you know how they always talk about, you know, in 2032, I think 2032, yeah, there might be issues with funding Social Security, but you know, I don't worry about it. I'll just be happy, like when I turn 62 in 2 years, 2028, to collect Social Security. Congratulations, Brian. Enjoy your go 51, 61 years of retirement. Do lots of adventures. I hope Philippines doesn't become ungrateful like Europe has. Yeah, I mean, JP, you know, the Philippines and US have always had a good relationship all throughout the years, you know, all throughout the years. Unfortunately, you know, I think it was a mistake, you know, losing the military bases here back in 91, Pinatubo 92. But a lot of that was all political, you know, a lot of that was all political. The people in Congress decided for the people. But most of the time, most people here, they were happy that the military bases were here. I know Clark Air Base alone, Clark Air Base alone, when I was stationed at Clark Air Base, there was 20,000 Filipinos employed by Clark Air Base. So man, that's, you know, when the base is closed, that's 20,000 people that lost their jobs, you know, and you know the local economy, all the, you know, the effect, you know, that you know, Angela City suffered for many years when the military base. So same thing with Subic Naval Base when that naval base close in Olongapo City, that area there suffered for many years. Thanks, Merle. Thanks, Merle from Brian. Phil, good morning, Fortune. Have you ever traveled in China? HD, exporting talent also causes brain drain. We need talent to remain in the Philippines, but the pay is not attractive enough. Yes, that, you know, it's unfortunate, definitely unfortunate, HD, but it pays too well. It pays too well. to go abroad. It doesn't pay well here in the Philippines, unfortunately. HD, very true, very true. HD Apex, expat. I'm not indoors, but plug them all the time. Effortless 13A, and they will be selling our condo. All right, Belize. You're allowed to take over the foundation. Okay. Captain Ron, Michael. What's the weather like in Tagaytay and the rent prices? Um, Merle, it's true. I had colleagues that retired and still working. Their social security isn't enough to pay their monthly bills. I'm so grateful to own my time again. Oh, you will, man. You're gonna have an amazing time, Merle. It's like I see your path. The same path I took. 15 years ago. That's why I know you're gonna have a great time in Boracay. You know. Hey, gang, going down to. All right, go ahead, Brian. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining the live stream, Brian. Appreciate your time, my brother. Flying to Iloilo tomorrow evening. Have a wonderful. All right, safe travels, Brian. Jim, Social Security at 100 or of your full benefit if you wait until 70. Of course, it's it won't change for the yeah. Yeah, a lot of people have told me, why am I getting my Social Security at 62 early retirement when I've been living well here for 15 years in the Philippines? Why not wait for the full benefit? The full benefit for me is 67, but for me, man, I just want to just want to get it, because 62 to 67, that's 5 years. Man, a lot can happen. A lot can happen in those 5 years. If I can collect a 62, the money, I can do a lot of things with the money. Do traveling with Dazzle, invest it here. We got projects that we can start, with that money. So I'm not gonna wait. I'm not gonna wait till age 67. I'll just be happy that I collect, because there's many people that never collect Social Security. It's like they die before they can collect on Social Security. I don't want to be one of those. I want to be at least I can say, hey, I at least got a SS check, a Social Security check. The difference though with like these OFWs, you hear about people leaving their home country, right? They're leaving their home country to move to another country. The difference with the OFWs really, they're not really leaving their home country. Their intention is to go back for most anyway. Their intention when people go to the Middle East, to Dubai, Oman, Bahrain, all those countries working in the Middle East, uh, they're not going there and like putting roots there to stay there for good. A lot of OFWs, they're just there to work, earn their money. Like I said, sending all their money here to the Philippines, building something here in the Philippines, because that's been how it is here in the Philippines since I can remember. Even back in the 70s, I remember I have one of my cousins, my cousin Larry. He graduated from Mapua University back in 1974. He graduated from Mapua University. He was a med tech, medical technician, lab technician type, pathologist type. He went to Norway. He went to Norway in 1974. Lived in Norway for like 30 plus years. His kids are Norwegian citizens. They were born in Norway, but now he's back here in the Philippines. He lives in the Tagaytay area now, because that's the dynamic with a lot of Filipinos. It doesn't matter for us, like even for me, I always felt that, I became a United States citizen when I joined the military. Uh, I joined the U.S. Air Force back in 1984. I never pictured myself staying in the United States for good. I always knew I was going to come back to the Philippines. Um, for us, it's just like that. For most Filipino Americans that came from here, there's a difference. If you're born in the U.S., a lot of times for Filipino Americans born in the U.S., they're more American than Filipino. But for us that grew up here, born and raised here, I was 12 when I left the Philippines. For a lot of us, this is still home. You feel you're home here. You're welcome here. You're not treated like as a foreigner. You know, like even for me, I became a United States citizen. I did 20 years in the United States Air Force. I lived over 30 years. I lived in the United States, but if I'm in the U.S. even now, even when I was living in Tucson, Arizona, you know, a lot of times if I'm at a party, if I'm in a get together, people will ask me, "Where are you from?" Like they look at you like you're an outsider from the United. They don't look at you as a local. Like even when I say, "Oh, I lived in California," or if I say, "Oh, I'm from California." There's even people that will say, "Oh, you weren't born in California." There's always that. Never really felt like. I never really felt like that America was my home. My home is always the Philippines. That's why, even when I was working all those years, 30 plus years working in America, I knew I was going to come home to the Philippines. This is home. These are my people. The Philippines, this is where my people are. I'm Filipino. It's like, if people ask you, I'm Filipino. That's how that, I'm an American citizen. I'm a Filipino citizen, but I'm a Filipino. They need to start raising the retirement age slowly and stop giving benefits to people who never contributed, who never contributed. Hey, Skating Geezer, my good friend in Ormoc, Ormoc. Long time no see. I know you went on vacation in Germany. I remember you saying you went to Germany. Welcome back to Ormoc in Ormoc City. Hi, Gino. I retired one day before my 60th birthday. Wish I had quick at least and that's very common, Skating Geezer, with everybody that I talk to. I talk to a lot of expats, a lot of people retiring here in the Philippines. Most people that I talk to, it's majority of people I talk to, they all tell me, I could have done this I could have done this 10 years ago. If they had one regret, they regret not retiring sooner here in the Philippines because I think a lot of it in the US, they scare you about not having enough money for retirement. But I think that's because most people in the US plan on retiring in the US. And definitely, you need more money to retire if you're retiring in the US. But if you're retiring outside the US, in a developing country like the Philippines or Vietnam or Thailand or Mexico, other countries in the world, you won't need the same amount of money that you need. You're thinking that you need in the U.S. And then a lot of times, once you're retired, you're gonna spend less. That's what for most people anyway. For most people that I've met, most people when they retire, they know that they have to budget. They have to spend less to make their retirement pension, whatever money they got saved, last longer. It's not one of those things where you retire and then boom, I'm like living the high life, spending money. Most retirees become frugal in retirement because you want to make sure your money lasts. You want to make sure that you have a successful retirement. Castaway Drip, hey, good morning, my brother from another, the Duke of Duma, Michael S. Good morning, good morning. Michael's the same. Michael retired in the Philippines early too. He's in his 50s and he's retired here in the Philippines. And let me tell you this: there's not one day that he regrets retiring early. It's like I have not met anybody that told me I wish I was still working. I have not met a single person in all I've been doing YouTube now for over 4 years. Met a lot of expats. I have not met a person that said, "Dang, I wish I was still working." I've never met a single person that everybody that said, "Oh, thank goodness I'm not at work anymore." I think that's how bean counters in the U.S. hope to keep Social Security afloat. But I I think that's part of their strategy. That part of their strategy is, unfortunately, there's a lot of people, and I know personally people, like in my military career. Unfortunately, I've had friends, good friends of mine that had passed away, military retirees that passed away before reaching Social Security, and I know they contributed a lot to Social Security, and they never collected. Yeah, there's truth. There's truth to that. That's why if they keep raising the age, at one time I remember it wasn't even 65 for most of the time. It was 65. 65 was the retirement. Now it's 67. Now they're talking about 70. You know, Unfortunately, not all of us are going to make it to 70, and not all of us are going to make it to 67. And I'm sure Social Security takes that into account. No regret. I know Michael S. I know Castaway Drip here. He has no regret whatsoever. And I'm the same way. When I retired here early, I was gonna make whatever money I was making, my military pension. I was gonna live below my means. I was gonna do everything I can to like make it to where I'm saving money every month. And that's happened. Every single month that I've been here, I've been able to save money from my military pension. So I knew pretty quick. I was in Boracay maybe 3 months when I realized I could really do this because, like, I was receiving a military pension, and a portion of it I'm saving every month. After 3 months of doing that, I said, dang, man, I know I can do it. I knew I could be successful with this. I knew I could retire early and enjoy my life earlier. And I'm glad. I'm so blessed, so grateful because the past 15 years here have been the best years of my life. I chose happiness. Well, yes, right? It's like, uh, especially for me, Michael. When I went through my battle with cancer 3 years ago, it made me even realize that I made a good decision retiring early. Now as you can see, man, I'm almost back to before I got cancer. I'm back to like, I'm walking more. I can exercise. I can do push-ups. I'm the healthiest I've been, since going through cancer treatment. So I'm thankful. I'm thankful. But even if I've even realized it more how important it is to like how our health. Number one priority when you're retired is your health. You gotta prioritize your health. You can't be. I see them. People live. How they want to live their lives, but I see some people get into that. Hitting the bars here. Like Angeles City. I have friends in Angeles City. I have friends in Dumaguete City. They're posting on Facebook all the time, all the drinking that they're doing, and I'm just going like, man, it's like, but they're my friends. I'm not gonna tell them what to do with their life, but man, your health's got to be your priority. I don't drink alcohol anymore, man. For many in a long time now, and even before I quit, I might have one beer once in a while. I try to eliminate anything that will harm my health now because when you go through like a health issue, everything, all the money you saved, all the investments you saved, all the things you've done, built a house, all that, man, when you get sick, none of that matters. Everything, health is number one. It's like you got to take care of your health uh, before anything else. You cannot enjoy your life if you're not in good health, unfortunately. And a lot of times people uh, learn that the hard way, the hard way after, warnings from their doctors, you need to do exercise, you need to eat healthy, you need to stop your vices, no smoking, no drinking. A lot of times people wait too long before they realize that. Skating geezer. Those taking ferries out of Cebu, luggage weight allowed is 10 kilos for 100 pesos and charge additional for every kilogram. I had many gifts for girlfriend plus family. I paid. Oh, okay. As long as you can pay, I don't have problem. It's like when I ride. I haven't been in a plane in so long now. I haven't flown anywhere or ferry. We do go on the ferry, but I don't mind paying money as long as I can bring the additional weight. But thank you for that information, skating geezer. We travel more. Dazzle and I travel more in the ferry because Dazzle hates flying. So, and I'm cool. I'm cool with the ferries. Yeah, it's surprising how many U.S. military retirees don't live very long after they retire. I think, Jim, I think a lot of military retirees, they fail to realize that during their military career, minimum 20 years, some stay 30 years in the military, they don't realize how stressful the military was and the drain that took from the physically and mentally from them during their military. The enlisted member in the military is always in the top three or top five. What's that? Most stressful job in the world. It's like being an enlisted military. And I was enlisted military for 20 years. And I felt that. I felt that stress working as an enlisted person in the military for 20 years. That's why I knew, man. That's why after 20, I could have stayed longer in the military. But after 20, I said, man, I got to get out while I can, at least get my military pension and do something else with my life. But I think a lot of people fail to realize that military is very stressful job. That's why a lot, when they retired from the military, it's like many issues happen. Unfortunately, in military, even military retirees, some of the highest suicide rates, some of the highest alcoholism rates. Uh, it's just one of those things because it's a stressful job. And you know back when I was in the military, I've retired now since 2004. I've been retired 22 years. But during my military years, alcohol was like a way to, like, dang, I need a drink. I need a drink. You get off like that 12-hour shift or that military exercise after 4 or 5 days of military exercise. Man, I need a beer. I need like a few beers, like that to regain myself. I recommend not taking the mindset sitting and watching the grass grow as a that's why Castaway Drift, we are kindred spirits. If I can say one advice to people that's retiring here in the Philippines, when you retire in the Philippines, that doesn't mean sitting on the couch or hitting the bar every night and drinking that beer, man. When you retire, it's the opportunity to extend your life. Be active. Go on morning walks. Go on sunset walks. Go hiking. It doesn't have to be like pumping weights at the gym. It doesn't have we're not young anymore, right? We can't do it like the strenuous activity, but a simple walk every day, swimming. There's a lot of activities, lighter activities in our body, but you got to remain active. It's like if you get into like that cycle of like hitting the local bar, every day and sitting there drinking, that's not good. That's not good. It's like I have to live with my choice, but I sometimes think I should have headed to PI as soon as I retired. Uh, I know that, Jim. I know. That's why when I meet people, a lot of times they tell me that, especially like military retirees. A lot of military retirees that I know, because you get into that thing in the U.S. where you want to when you want to build wealth, you want to keep working, and a lot of times a lot of my friends in the U.S. that were retired military. They worked. They were in the military 20 years. They got out of the military and they worked another 20 years for the federal service. Right? They joined the civil service, federal service, so they get another pension. But when you work that many years, 20 years military, 20 years in civil service, that's 40 years. Chances are you're in your 60s by the time you stop working. And like I've said many times, unfortunately, that check engine light for many of us, usually comes on at about age 60, sometimes sooner. And you just can't do a lot of the things that you could do in your 40s and your 50s once you start hitting your 60s. The body just tells you, and it's like I said, the check engine light comes on, and you're not able to do a lot of the things that you were able to do before. But that's why if you can retire early in your 50s while you can still walk, while you can still go hiking, man, do it, because it's if you wait till in your 60s, a lot you see a lot, there's a lot of memes even, right, on the internet, a lot of memes where people, couples going on. There's one of my favorite. They were like in Venice, I think, in one of those boats, like where the guy sits on the boat taking them on a ride, and the couple are like passed out while they're on their tour, because at an older age, you just don't function the same way when you're younger. Seattle, Washington. Hello, hello for Seattle, Washington. Good to see you, bro. Gino, good to see you, brother. It's Thursday afternoon, 5:19, and still working. Can I go home now? I agree. Health is wealth. Retire early and enjoy life. Yes, you will not regret it. I have not met anybody that retired early or retired here in the Philippines that regret their decision coming here. Most people, they're just so grateful that it's all over. That cycle, that what is that wheel that people talk about. It's like they're out of the matrix. They're out of the matrix. Your better life begins in the Philippines. And JP Calibo, perfect example. It's like I remember when JP was talking to me on the way to the Philippines. Of course, he had things before that he was not sure about. There's a lot of uncertainty when you're going to a foreign country. You're going to a foreign country thousands of miles away from what you're used to. But JP Calibo is a perfect example. It's like from the day he landed here in the Philippines, you can't take the smile off JP's face, and he's like having a great time here. Derek, I was 40 when I retired from the Navy and got a job, DOD contract, and doing the same thing. Yeah, and many people, right? Many people, Derek, do that. I have friends that does the exact same thing. They do their military career, they get out and they do civil service, DOD contract, same thing, work, but work another 20 years or more. It's like, and I've seen, you will end up having more money in your retirement, if you work another job like that. But how many more years do you really have? And then when you're in your 60s, mid 60s already, man, it's like you just can't move around like you did when you're in your 40s and 50s, unfortunately. Me, the Philippines is always my home. There's no place like home. It's, yeah, yeah. We know, right? We know that, it's like we that were born in the Philippines, we know that it's always home. It doesn't matter where you go, what you do with your life. We were blessed that we were able to go to America and find a life in America. But you know, I really never felt America was my home. I never, maybe because I was in the military, I got stationed in California, I got stationed in Louisiana, I was stationed in Texas. So I never really felt like this is my home. If when I was living in the United States, people would always ask me, "Where are you from?" My answer every time was, "I'm from the Philippines." That's why I always knew I was going to be back here. Yeah, Castaway Dream. I know, man. It's like you're always walking. Philippines fitness. Use it exactly. It's like and I've seen so many people now that have moved here. That JP Calibo's example, Ruben's another example. They come here. Mel from Atlanta. My friends here in Calibo. I've seen them that when they came here, they're walking more. They're out in Calibo walking around. It's not when in the U.S. people a lot of times just to go to a store, maybe a mile away. A lot of people in the U.S. get on the car. Everything's like you got to get in the car. And the people here that's moved here to Calibo, they're walking. Going to like a 7-Eleven, going into McDonald's, or going to the park. Everybody's walking. It's like, which is good. I'm glad. I'm glad I'm seeing that. You don't have to be a gym. Yeah, you don't have to be a gym rat. Just go outside and walk. It's like like me. I do enjoy the gym, but like it's like I just try to do more activities outside. Like my morning walks is that's mandatory for me, and then I also join Dazzle on her sunset walks. In my opinion, walking is longevity for life. And for me, I was always a runner, Castaway Drift, but now walking works better for me because I'm lucky enough that even all the years that I was running, I don't have any joint issues. I have no knee problems. I don't have arthritis. So now walking to me is perfect now. The only thing I really lost because of my cancer treatments, my lungs are not as strong as it used to be. That's one of the things. I don't have the same endurance. So walking's perfect for me because you don't have to walk fast. You just like steady pace. Walk for hour and a half, and it's good good exercise for me to start my day. Support, Marine. Three of the senior officers who were my field training officers finished their 30-year careers and died within a year. Not even 60 yet. Wow. Wow. And I'm sure that it made you think, right, JP? And the same thing with me. I've had those. I was unfortunately I've lost some of my brothers in the military early. It's like and a lot of them, they were doing what they were doing was we retired about the same time in the military, and it's a stressful job in the military, and then they went into civil service, and while they're in civil service, they're the same age as I am, and they're not with me anymore because they went from one stressful job to another stressful job, and they just continued that. Um, Unfortunately, they weren't focused on their health, so they didn't even make it to 60. I have a couple of friends that's what happened with them. Walking removes potential stress or depression, like the classic song. I'm walking on sunshine. All right. Vaughn, no way, JP. They must have missed life after retirement. That's tremendously tragic. But you do hear that often, right? You do hear that often. People, even Social Security age, or the minute they collect Social Security, they might collect 1 year and they pass away after. You do hear that happen to many people, which is so unfortunate because it's like, they only got to really enjoy retirement for a year or so. Jim, check engine light. Too true. I'm going to use that. All right, hey man. Many people, I've mentioned that before. That check engine light comes on, and people, hey man, I'm going to use that. I'm going to use that. One, I was at 20 years and got out by 22 years. Wish I had guts and knowledge to move the Philippines back then. Yeah, see, JP is another example like that. That wish they have done it sooner here in the Philippines. Like I said, like I know Merle. Merle is in like mid 50s. He's coming here to Boracay. Once he lands here, he's gonna be so happy here. He's gonna have an amazing life here in Aklan province. Upon retirement, one must think about what to do for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. Never been a problem with me, Vaughn. It's like the minute I landed in Boracay 15 years ago, I really didn't have a plan. I didn't have a plan on what am I going to do with my time. It's like, I never had a plan, man. When I landed 15 years ago, I was like 45 years old. I was super active. I was a cyclist, best shape in my life. And when I landed in Boracay Island, I even got in the best shape of my life, even better than like a 17-year-old Gino joining the military. Because when I was in Boracay Island for my first 18 months here, I rode my mountain bike every day, everywhere in Boracay. Uh, if you know Boracay, there's a lot of hills in Boracay. Constantly, I was like on my mountain bike, climbing hills in Boracay. I would run on White Beach, Boracay every day. 5 kilometers to me was a piece of cake. I was like, man, I was like in the best. I was swimming out in the ocean, man. I could have been a triathlete. I could have joined a triathlon at age 45, living in Boracay. That's how fit I was at age 45, and I never had an issue about what to do because I had friends. We would like ride our mountain bikes. We would hang out. I met guys that worked at I met a lot of musicians when I was in Boracay. A lot of them worked at the Boom Boom Bar. They worked at the Pirates Bar, and a lot of them work at night. And so what will happen? Like they work from like 6 p.m. till 2 a.m. And then in the morning they'll get up like 8 or 9, and we'll ride our bikes in Boracay or in the mainland. So I never had an issue, man, of like I would get up early in the morning. I'm a morning person, so the minute sunrise would hit Boracay, man, I had my running shoes. I was running on White Beach, Boracay every day, and I was like, and every day I was just like thankful. I was just like, man, this is the life. And then for the rest of my day, like I'll run in the morning, I'll swim in the ocean, I'll eat my carinderia food right there on the beach. In my afternoon, from like 1 to like 4 or sometimes 5, nap time. I was nap time in it. I would get up in the afternoon at 5 to watch the sunset and hang out with my friends. And I did that for like 18 months in Boracay, and it was the best time of my life. We would play ultimate frisbee on the beach, soccer on the beach volleyball. Met so many people in Boracay because one thing about Boracay I noticed back then, I don't know how it is now, but back then, it's like people rotate through Boracay. A lot of your expats that live in Boracay, uh, they'll stay in Boracay usually during the summer months, and when July hits to like November, they'll go somewhere else. They'll like travel to Thailand, travel to, live, go to Bali or whatever. And then again, the following summer, we'll all see each other. Hey, what's up? It's like repeat the same cycle again. Never, man, it was the best time of my life. I remember living my 18 months in Boracay. I'm just sharing the info. When I left 1 month earlier, cost for each bag was 100 pesos. All right, returning with heavy bags. It No ATM in the terminal. Oh, okay, all right, says skating geezer. Thank you for yeah, definitely bring cash, right? Bring cash or your Gcash. I'm sure Gcash is accepted. JP Calibo, I think you are where you need to be at the time you are. Yeah, I mean, I think JP just like he picked the right time to come to the Philippines, right time in his life. That's why he's having such a great time here. You are so correct. To really appreciate the Philippines, I needed to get humbled first. You still look 45 years old. I wish I still look like 45 years old, man. Health is our best wealth. Definitely. It's like totally agree with that. Laughter is the best medicine. You know, especially with me, like I said, after with my battle with cancer, I do not take anything for granted, and I do everything in my power to stay healthy. Everything, my diet, my exercise, my sleep, everything is like. I make sure health is my priority. Walking for life, walking for life. Derek. Yes, sir, Derek. Live to walk, walk to live. You're an inspiration, GP. In 1987, when I started law enforcement life, expectancy for career police officer was 59. Retirement was 58 years old. They planned law enforcement not collecting retirement, man. Oh, AOB, all right, my good friend, my brother Olson, Aliyah, and my good buddy Isaiah in Columbia, South Carolina. Hello, Kuya, good morning. Good news, Aliyah got her 13A visa. All right, awesome, man, awesome. I'm impressed by the DC consulate office. They did a quick turnaround, only 1 week. That is awesome, Olson. So, man, you guys are all set, man. You guys are all set. With your trip here to the Philippines. So happy to hear that, man. Nothing to worry about once you get here, man. You guys are like gonna have a good life here in the Philippines. And hello, Panay Posse and peeps from Olsen. You're a survivor, GP, as you exceeded your law enforcement. Nap time will make someone live. Man, that's even to this day, Vaughn. My favorite thing to do, like after lunch, is my nap time. It's not as long anymore. Usually hour and a half, 2 hours, but I do feel refreshed every time. You know, it's like when I wake up from my afternoon nap. I'm ready for merienda. I'm ready for merienda after my nap, man. One of the great blessings of kindergarten nap time, nap time, as long it's done in moderation. One, I got to play with Pew Pew in my second career too. That was fun until my lower back wore out. Merle, lots of Filipino retired Navy in San Diego and doing federal work. They're still chasing money to keep up. Yeah, and I know that. I know that. Like, even me, you know, it's like my time in the military, I have a group of friends that we retired about the same time. And I still have friends that even to this day, they're like my age, 60. We're retired at the same time. Like, 22 years ago, and they're still working. But because they live in the U.S., man, they live in the U.S. So I kind of understand because like they're living in the U.S. So you know it's expensive. The United States is expensive, and I understand my friends that are still doing that because mortgage, you know, they got like heavy duty mortgage, their property tax, their insurance on their house, the cars that they drive, you know. I don't think they're really keep. You know, I don't really think they're keeping it with the Joneses. I just think that you get wrapped into that life for you know that's the life that you know. You know, like that's the life that you're supposed to, right? That you're supposed to have all these things, but man, it's hard to maintain all those things. You know, it's like you know, even with a military pension already, a federal job already, and they're still just like making it. You know, they're not like they're not paycheck to paycheck, but you know everything's still going out and going out payment to something. OB, love seeing you with your posse and other Genu. So much. Oh yeah, we're every time we get together, it's so much fun. You know, because it's fun seeing being around happy people. You can tell everybody's just enjoying their life here. There's some ribbing, you know, there's some teasing going on, but it's all for fun. You know, it's like I like hanging out with my expat friends here because I see the joy in their faces, and that matters to me. That matters. One, indeed, too much of good thing is bad. Too much of a good thing is bad. Shooting range in Calibo. I'm not involved with like shooting or anything like that, but they do exist here because right beside the police station in Calibo, there's like a armament, you know, it's like ammunition, weapons, and all that. So they have that. They have that here in Calibo. But I'm not into it anymore. You know, it's like I left it all. Once I left the military, I wasn't into that anymore. Nap time is the only thing I have not copied from Gino. I need to be that do better. You don't gotta do nap time, GP, but I do enjoy my nap time. But because I get up early, I'm up by 4:30. So by the time I eat lunch, I'm like, I'm ready to take a nap. So and I do enjoy it. That's why a lot of Filipino don't move back to the Philippines. JP Bond, the only target range I've seen nearby is in Balete. I've not been there, and non citizens cannot own firearms in the Philippines. Find a nice hammock away from coconut tree. Actually, away from coconut tree, JP. The thing here, even like underneath a coconut tree in the afternoon, it is hot, man. Usually, if I have to take a nap in the afternoon, I have to go in our room, turn on the AC in order for me, especially now. It's too hot right now. Even when you go to the beach right now, underneath a coconut tree, man, it's still hot. It's still hot here right now. I remember from Gilligan's Island, do not sleep below coconut trees, or you will not find your Mary Ann. You're not part of your Mary Ann. That's funny, GP. All right. I think I'm going to end the live stream right here. I'm at the 2 hour mark. I always try to just hit right around 2 hours. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining the live stream. Khalil's still sleeping. It's just like, oh man, Khalil's like all eyes closed, sleeping still. All right, I'm gonna end the live stream right here. Again, thank you so much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, and everyone, please stay blessed. Stay blessed. Thank you, JP. Hit the like. All right, thank you. Thank you so much. Stay blessed, everyone. Stay blessed, everyone. Awesome live. Good day, everyone. All right. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Vaughn. Thank you. Thank you so much.